having me. Like Lori said, my name is Rebekah Warwick. I'm with Heritage Action. I've been with them for almost 9 years. This is very, I'm on camera. I feel like I'm on Fox News. That's a lot less fancy.
It's nowhere.
I
think we're above Fox News.
It's probably the closest I'll ever get to media. So thank you, Jason. A little bit about me, for those of you who never met me. I went to school out in Colorado. I was an Air Force brat. Moved to Colorado when I was 18 to go to Colorado Christian University. I studied history and political science, worked at the state capitol for a little bit for the majority leader when the Republicans had a 1-seat majority in the state Senate. That was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about how the sausage is made, how constituents are seen and treated, how lobbyists are seen and treated, and just the basic mechanics of state government in a purple state. Did some school choice campaigns and other campaigns in the area. And then I covered multiple states, and as I said, I was an Air Force brat, so when I moved to Colorado, I was like, yes, I'm moving again. I found my home. This is great. And then I married an Army man. So you know how God, you make plans and God laughs. Well, God laughed really hard. And so I ended up moving to Kansas with my husband, and then after he got back from his last deployment, we moved down to Texas almost 5 years ago, which is really crazy to me. We have 2 daughters. Our oldest just turned 5 a few months ago. She was born in Kansas, but my youngest daughter, who's just turned 4, she was born here in Texas. So I think that gives me anchor baby status, right? Right? Because let me tell you, the complex I have as a non-native Texan, it is bad. Because I want to be like y'all. Because is this? I got here as soon as we have no family in Texas, so we came down here, got in the Army because there's opportunity, jobs, and freedom here in Texas, and that Texas is the last bastion, in my opinion, for our country. So I'm so glad to be the coordinator here in Texas. Like I said, I've been Heritage for 9 years almost. I'm based just south of Fort Worth, so only like 45 minutes away. So this was just like a little trip to my neighbors out here in Forney. For my folks down in Corpus Christi, I mean, that's a 7.5-hour drive. That's over a big bridge, over the water. I get all sweaty and panicky because I do not like driving over water. So Lori asked me to come tonight. She didn't tell me what to talk about, so I'm going to talk about lots of things, and I'll take your questions on all the things. I do have some notes because it's a whole hodgepodge of issues, and it's not all going to connect, but it does, because you know why? The government is interested in every single facet of society and every single part of your life. So if any of the policies don't connect, they do, because it's the government coming after you. So Heritage Action, we're a 501c4, the sister of the Heritage Foundation. So what does that mean? That means we can lobby lawmakers. That means we're able to go into their offices and say, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We key vote legislation. We alert lawmakers and the media ahead of time that, hey, this is our position on this bill. You should vote this way because of X issues. So on the most recent reconciliation bill with the 87,000 IRS agents at $80 billion, that's more people than can fill AT&T Stadium. You know, instead of actually taking care of our border, we're going to come after middle-class America because those 87,000 agents, they're not for the Bill Gateses of the world. They're for the you and me that do the H&R Block or the TurboTax, who are, you know, we think we're doing it the right way, we're crossing our fingers, we think we've plugged in the numbers correctly, but we'll see how it goes. So at Heritage Action, we lobby at the federal level, as well as I am your regional lobbyist here in Texas. So we have a team in DC, meeting with Ted Cruz, John Cornyn, Lance Gooden, all those relationships are different, as well as all the other members of Congress in DC. And then I work with our state lawmakers, but I do depend a lot on y'all to let me know, hey, what do you know about your state representative or your state senator? How can we move them across the finish line on this bill? Where do they need encouragement? Because sometimes with lawmakers, it's not just holding them accountable, which we should always hold them accountable, but there's always good ones. Senator Bob Hall is a really good conservative champion.
Amen.
It's just providing encouragement, because if you don't know this already, conservatives are not popular in government. All right, because the purpose of government is to grow government, right, when you're in there. So when you put someone there that says, hey, actually, the Constitution's about restraining the government so humans, so our citizens can flourish with freedom and liberty in this country, in this state. So know that at Heritage Action, we're holding lawmakers accountable, but also providing that encouragement, that air cover when needed, because you know the left, I can tell from experience, I work at the state capitals and I've been there, the left is always calling, and calling names and trying to just cause all sorts of chaos. So be that encouragement when you can to your lawmakers. So here at Jackson, what are we focusing on for the next few years? We have what's called our Fight for America. That's our plan for the next 3 years to not only lay out a conservative agenda, but make it inevitable. To be beating this drum for the next few years, because it's not enough to get conservative champions in office. If we don't have a plan for afterward, that's a wasted opportunity, right? Like you don't say, oh, I'm gonna try to win this race, and then afterwards I have no idea what to do next, right? You don't want to do that. I mean, y'all are raising money right now. You're thinking ahead for the future. It's not just for the sake of, oh, we're just going to have this fundraiser. It's going to be super cool. It's with a goal, it's for a purpose in mind. And so our lawmakers show that same kind of goal and purpose. So our Fight for America's Future, we have 7 policy priorities. If you go to heritage.org/7 policies, you can see them all. I'll just list them out real quick. These are in no particular order. It's just the 7, and I can't say all 7 at once. So we have empowering parents to make education choices, securing America's border and reducing crime, ensuring free and fair elections, reversing the growth of spending and inflation, because, real quick, the national debt and our spending problem should not just be a talking point on the campaign trail. We have a real issue, and we have to force the conversation with lawmakers and really hold their feet to the fire on it, because we're going to be at a precipice, all right? We're already seeing it now with crazy inflation. So moving on, countering the threat of communist China, holding big tech accountable, and protecting the unborn. Texas has made strides in a few of these, but there's always room for improvement in every single state. So a few of the things that we'll be focusing on in Texas as well as nationwide as we're lobbying in various state capitals. How many of y'all have heard of ESG, Environmental Social Governance? All right, so a few of you have. All right, I kind of think of it as the CRT of industry. Right, so CRT goes after our kids, it goes after our classrooms, right? ESG is going after our businesses, our financial sector, our banking industry. So environmental social governance is a criteria that's designed for the left of how to make strategic investment decisions to aid environmental causes or the social justice causes that they care about. So now they're kind of giving companies an ESG score. So for example, does your board have the accepted quota of women or minorities on your board? Do you do woke trainings with more people? Do you even make decisions based on what your climate footprint, your carbon footprint might be? So instead of talking about how are we investing to give a good return to our stakeholders, right? You're giving your money to your 401ks or your pensions, and then it becomes about not that return on investment. It becomes about pushing forward an agenda using your money, which means that we are bankrolling an agenda that is actually hurting our bottom line and hurting American industry. We've already seen at the federal and state level laws being done. So the federal level, if you don't all know this, the Biden administration proposed an SEC rule, a climate change rule, a few months ago, which basically would have required boards to report how often they talk about climate change, right? Because that's really important. It would have required that they disclose not only as an individual business, what their climate impact might be, but also any subsidiary business. So if you're a big business and you contract out to somebody else for a certain part of it, they have to also take into account what is their climate change footprint on this issue. So it was just the administration trying through the rulemaking process to push forward their agenda. We had over 5,000 people, I think it was actually almost 10,000 people leave public comments on the Federal Registrar, because if you don't know this, anytime the administration tries to make a new rule, they are legally required to open it for public comments. The left did this constantly under Trump, where a comment would come open and they would flood the scene, they would flood the field with their comments opposing Donald Trump's policies at the administrative level. And required by law, the agency overseeing that rule would have to go through each individual unique entry, which slows the process down dramatically and also provides a great foundation for lawsuits. And so we have to act that same way on rules. When the Biden administration is proposing a rule, which he's going to do more of, by the way, should Congress flip. If a bill cannot get through Congress for his agenda in 2023, 2024, he's going to turn to the administrative state the bureaucracy, the rule makers, to try to push forward his agenda as much as possible. And we have to be prepared to leave as many comments, unique, don't just copy and paste it has to be unique, so we'll try to batch them. But leave unique comments letting them know we oppose this, make it as hard as possible for them to move forward on those rules. So back to ESG, at the state level, we had it here in Texas and a few other states. They passed a law that would have the state divest their contracts from companies that are beholden to ESG. So if a financial firm here in Texas, if a business operating in Texas says, we are going to make investment decisions based on an ESG score. It's basically like a social credit score where you're being evaluated on not like your actual business or your return on investment, but on a certain agenda, the ESG agenda. If you're doing that in Texas, and this often goes after the fossil fuel industry, because that's not a politically correct industry for the left. They do not like oil and gas. So Texas last year, feels like a lifetime ago, but it was just last year, passed a bill. Senator Brian Hughes carried it. He seems to carry a lot of things here in Texas. Carried a bill that would have Texas divest from state contracts from any company that was engaging in ESG. You have the state treasurer in West Virginia, who actually, as treasurer, they had a law that said, hey, you have to submit to us if you are a company, a business, a financial firm who is receiving taxpayer dollars, right? So you are managing the pension funds, the employee pensions for our state. Submit a list of what you're doing in your investment strategy, kind of making sure like, hey, are you engaging in ESG practices where you're denying financial capital to, oil, gas, coal? Are you blocking loan access? Are you blocking this, access to really anything in the market to grow their business because of them being that type of business? And he followed up, it actually just happened last month. 5 of the 6 companies that they were evaluating, so there were 6 companies, they said, hey, if you're participating in this, if you do not change course, we are cutting off our contracts with you. Only one of those companies backed off. That's a pretty big win, because that means 5 of those other companies that said no, they are more committed to ESG policies, they are more committed to crushing the fossil fuel, the coal industry in West Virginia, which provides jobs, which provides a good investment, a return on investment for their pension plans. They prefer to push forward their woke agenda than continue doing business with the state of West Virginia. And the state treasurer said, fine, we're not doing business with you. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're investing in it. When we are putting our 401ks or our pensions into those investments, we want them to get the biggest bang for our buck, right? That is our retirement. But that's not the goal of ESG. The goal of ESG is to push forward their agenda, which is the Green New Deal, quite honestly. And honestly, as you think about it, when you have ESGs affecting companies, it's not just this kind of like big, company, what does that mean? But it's the people inside of it. And then furthermore, think through where does this lead? If we're assigning company scores based on their adherence to climate change, to environmental social governance, that's going to lead to individual credit scores, social credit scores. We've already seen in places like China. What is that going to do if we allow this to keep going unencumbered? And like I said, everybody's going to suffer this, and it's not just oil and gas either. While it's a really big one, that's probably just the easiest one to see, because we have seen whether it's federal government blocking access or stopping leasing of lands, but you also have financial firms saying, hey, we're not going to do business with you, we're not going to give you a loan. I remember reading up in Alaska, they were trying to drill more wells up there, and they were not able to get a loan. The state had to come and provide financial assistance to a company to continue their drilling operations, because they were blocked by various banks saying, we won't do business with you because of the business that you're in. But it's not just oil and gas. This affects agriculture. So the left, they don't like cows. Did you know that? They don't like cows. And so if you look at what's happening in Iowa and Nebraska, ranchers are having a horrible time in investing in their own properties and their ranches to grow their herds, right? They want to grow their herds, they want to expand their numbers to increase their production, because Americans like red meat. I know that I'm a big fan of steak and a hamburger about once a week, maybe more than that. But you have industries like agriculture, like ranching, like logging, like guns. So this isn't just also, these kind of big industries of like, oh, oil and gas, agriculture. But think about this. What if I wanted to open a shooting range? And so I went to the bank for a small business loan to open that range. And they said no, because we do not like what you are, we do not believe in this. We're going to starve you of capital. And in fact, Biden's picked to lead the lead financial sector regulatory agency. He even said that the goal was to starve these certain industries of capital. That's the whole goal. The left can't stop, Texas from drilling itself. They're going to go after those financial firms and companies and say, you should deprive them of capital, you should deprive them of access to the market. And that's what's happening with ESG. So right now, while Texas did pass that bill last session, they are planning for more bills this upcoming one in 2023, because that bill that was passed last year only dealt with oil and gas, so fossil fuels. So we need to go after, make sure we protect Texas agriculture. We do have some logging here in Texas, ranching in Texas, Second Amendment here in Texas. I swear there's a shooting range almost every mile, wherever I drive, because we like to protect ourselves as Texans, right? And so there's a lot of industries that do need protection from the left that is seeking to remove them from the marketplace and remove them from society and starve them the capital just because they do not fit in with their agenda. So be on the lookout for that. If you go to esghurts.com, that's esghurts.com, that is our one-stop shop for all things ESG. It also includes model legislation.
ESGHURTS?
Yes, esghurts.com, esghurts.com. It also has model legislation, which deals with economic boycotts, fiduciary responsibility, as well as empowering the executive branch to take action. So if you know your state senator or your representative, give them the information and say, here's a bill that's already been drafted. Because I can tell you, drafting bills can be hard. There's a lot of things going on. We are about to hit the pre-filing season, by the way, so we know session starts in January, but work is already happening now on bills, if you don't know that, about what lawmakers want to run, how they want to accomplish it, drafting of the text before pre-filing starts after the November election. So be aware of that. We should talk to lawmakers now, especially if you feel confident that they're going to be in office next year, about what are their plans. They should be thinking now about what they're going to do next session and not just waiting and seeing. And they should hopefully tell you, as their constituent, what their plans are. So other areas we're working on include immigration, which, as you know, the Biden administration just has, I don't know if their eyes are closed or open, because you would think closed, just like they don't see what's happening, but also they absolutely see what's happening and they're totally fine with it. It's nuts. I've always told people, before I came to Texas, I always knew illegal immigration was an issue, was a problem, but I never lived kind of near the border area, so I didn't see it as much. I was like, oh, it was more like an out there issue. And then I moved here. And I see the impact, not just at the border, but on all the communities of Texas. They're all over the state. And it's not just this impact of, what about the crime and drugs, which are concerns for people, but if you actually, we did a poll in 2019, if you ask a lot of Americans their concerns about illegal immigration, they'll tell you it's the social safety net. So our hospitals, our schools, welfare benefits, as you have more and more people coming here and using services, how does that impact your local community's ability to take care of the citizens here? Think about your fire, your police. That's a big issue. And so there are steps Texas can take. Texas has, along with a few other border states, has been taking action as they can, but there's more that can be done at the state level that our legislature can do to stem the tide of illegal immigration and fight back against what's happening in Washington. So there's a few ideas that we have, and this will be coming out more formally later, but some recommendations that Heritage has for state lawmakers. These are just a few. I can send you the booklet if you like. There's 20 recommendations. These are ones that are a bit more Texas specific. We're looking through Texas law, which I'll let you know. It's really hard to go through because certain parts of election code, or Texas statutes, it's like election code, education codes. Okay, it's really easy to find. There is no immigration code, right? So you have to go through all of Texas statutes to read and find out what are our laws and what can be improved upon. So here's 2 things or 3 things that we would suggest. So Texas already has E-Verify for state agencies, contractors, colleges, universities. We do not require E-Verify for private employers. So that's something Texas could feasibly do, is use that system, whether public or private. Another feasible thing, we should prohibit taxpayer funds from going to immigration attorneys or NGOs who are paying for illegal aliens' legal representation here. So our taxpayer money should be funding a lawyer to defend an illegal person's presence here in the country. And related to that, we should pass a law prohibiting licenses, contracts, and grants for NGOs, those are non-governmental operations, transporting or assisting with the transport of illegal aliens. So a lot of NGOs down at the border, they actually help illegals once they get here, get assistance, get transported, not just around Texas, but across the country. And we should prohibit their grants that they receive. If they're going to be operating here in Texas providing assistance, they should not be transporting or assisting these illegals and in any sort of aiding or abetting manner of those who are crossing the border illegally. Those are simple things the legislature could do to not only discourage illegals from coming here, but also cut the funds from organizations that are here right now that are saying, yes, come over here, we're going to help you illegally be here. We should cut off their funding. That should be pretty simple, I think. I don't know about y'all. Kind of moving on, we all know about CRT, but y'all know about Title IX right now, right? Title IX, so we're basically erasing women from our vocabulary. That's no longer a thing. So the Title IX rule, again, a rule. So the Biden administration's been trying to do this for a little bit now. This is their third attempt because they blocked it twice. Now this is their third attempt, it's officially open. They are redefining sex from what it meant when it was passed in 1972. So 1972, when they passed Title IX, man meant biological man, woman, biological woman.
It's
right?
funny that they think
Super
they
easy.
care about women's rights.
No, they care about women's rights up until now, which is it's just really, as a woman, it's really infuriating personally. I competed in sports when I was in high school. I strived to do well academically so I could access certain scholarships that are available to me as a woman to pursue my education. But now it's just like, well, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because we're going to redefine what a woman is. And a woman now, if this Title IX rule goes through, I have this quoted because I think we need to read and know the whole definition that they want to have. Is sex will now mean sex stereotypes, sex-related characteristics, including intersex traits, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, and gender identity. So nothing about our biology there. It's just whatever you decide you want it to be. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Do you know what that means? If you say that our biology no longer matters, that means there's no longer a safe space for me as a woman or as a young girl. Whether it's the bathroom at school, the locker room, whether it's at overnight trips. Like I said, I swam competitively for multiple teams, and we had every so often 3-day long conferences. All of us would get on the bus and we'd all stay in hotel rooms, like 3 people to a room, divided by biological sex, because of course, now that would change that. That would mean that a boy who says, no, I identify as a girl, could be then boarded up with other girls. That takes away their privacy, their safety, and also think about sports, just kind of like that camaraderie, that team building that you get. Now, so I was on some team, which is kind of a mixed sport, but you do compete against other girls. But I also played soccer. And there's a type of camaraderie you get when we're all working together as a team, all being equal, right? Biologically speaking, men, you are stronger than us, you are bigger than us, you have larger lung capacities than us. So that's not exactly an equal playing field when we're talking about sports. And moreover, there's actually a poll done, a study, that revealed that 94% of senior female executives played competitive sports. So when you think about those women, that 94%, what happens if they're not having to compete against a biological male? Does that 94% become 70%, 50%, 40%, 30%? I mean, I'm sorry. Bruce/Caitlyn Jenner, whatever you'd like to call him, he became Woman of the Year after being a few years ago. Is that fair to other women who have been women as well? So you gotta really think about what that means. When I say, oh, just a few people, well, no, if you open this up, people are gonna say, oh, I could have a better opportunity for myself if I say I'm going to identify this way. It does actually also, this Title IX rule contradicts laws in 13 states, which puts them at jeopardy of losing federal funds should this redefinition go through. And that actually includes Texas. Because
so you separate from the feds.
Yeah, so in Texas, we protected K-12 sports during the special session last year. And so if Title IX becomes law, the new definition of Title IX becomes law, that puts us at odds with the federal government, who can then sue us, and now we're spending millions of taxpayer dollars fighting the federal government to say, if you're a boy, you're on the boys team, a girl on the girls team, and that's how it'll work here in Texas, because we are saving girls' sports. You're protecting her potential, keeping her privacy. That's the goal. Also, it's not as well noted. This brings back, y'all remember under the Obama administration, I always say Biden, and I don't mean to. I don't mean to.
It is the same. Actually, he's more radical than Obama.
So if you remember, under his administration, there was no due process, right, for those that were on college accused of, any sort of sexual assault or harassment. The accused was not allowed to defend themselves, cross-examine, etc. Donald Trump overturned that. Well, now this is bringing it back under Biden. So now the new Biden rule will strip the accused, those accused of sexual assault or harassment, of the right to be represented by counsel. Big issue. To introduce evidence or to cross-examine witnesses during the adjudication of sexual assault and sexual harassment hearings on college campuses. So that's a big issue. Taking away somebody's right to counsel, that's
against the Constitution.
Against the Constitution. Right, yes, that's an issue. So we saw that under Obama. Now Biden's trying to bring it back. And then finally, I do want to point out when we talk about, I think this is a very, we kind of sometimes laugh, but this really is a hard issue, because we want to have compassion, especially on those children, because we do have children that are suffering from gender dysmorphia, right? That does happen. But the worst part about this rule is that by mixing up and redefining sex and gender, you are further confusing children about who they are and how they've been designed by their creator. And by pushing this radical gender ideology, you're doing irreparable harm. Because studies show that up to 98% of children who struggle with to accept their biological sex when they're a child, accept it when they become an adult. That during that hard time when they're receiving true, support and counseling, so let's talk about this, why you feel uncomfortable, they actually come to accept and be fine in their bodies. And so our boys and girls, like our children, I have 2 little girls, they need to be nurtured, they need to be educated, but not be pushed into this questioning of what it means to be a boy or a girl. That's not what we should be teaching them or pushing on them. That's not education, that's indoctrination. We all know that. I think that's why you've seen so many parents the last few years really rise up. And that's why at Heritage, one of our priorities is empowering parents to make education choices, because we are seeing in some areas, schools, state of California, they're pushing for through curricula that's going to be indoctrinating students. There's not a better word for it. Even my older sister, she lives in Illinois, they had just pulled out all 4 of their kids from public school. And they've been there for a while. She was public school, I was in public school, and we all went to the same school. I love that my nieces and nephews had the same teachers that I had because they were so great. But the state board, they are pushing through new curricula requiring children as young as 2nd grade to identify heteronormative, homonormative, cisgender, transgender, pansexual, asexual. That's what's happening in some of these states. And so parents are deciding that, hey, this is enough for me. And a lot of parents are making that sacrifice to figure out, okay, how are we going to homeschool our kids and keep working? Because inflation is still crazy. I was at Kroger yesterday. I'm at Kroger probably every few days because we like to eat fresh fruit and veggies. And I have to get milk for my kids because kids drink milk, right? A quart of milk is $2.50. A quart. I remember not too long ago, like 2 years ago, I could get a gallon of milk for $1.79. A gallon. That is inflation. Like, I think we're all tired of like the Biden administration, his spokespeople all saying that, oh, it's not, like acting like we can't see, that we can't balance a checkbook, that we can't read a receipt. I mean, I can go back and look at my receipts from 2 years ago, because I'm a hoarder of like things like that, like kind of keep track of how much was I spending, because I'm one of those people. And it's just shocking to me how much more I'm spending on groceries, because I feel like we're not eating that much more, but it feels like we are, because my grocery bill is so high. So at Heritage Action, we cover this in a multitude of policies. Just today on our Sentinel Strategy call, as Lori mentioned, we have a call every Monday at 4:30 p.m. We had Roger Severino, who's the Vice President of Domestic Policy at the Heritage Foundation, talking about the raid of Mar-a-Lago and how the DOJ and the FBI have basically lost all credibility. There's zero transparency, so why should the public trust what is happening, what is going on? Because it all smells, right? It all smells.
And so,
I mean, yeah, so it's been years of them, saying, oh, it's over here, over here, so, oh, we're going to move Russia, oh, it's a hoax, or it's this, or it's that. I mean, the American people are tired, and they can see through crap, right? I mean, I think we're all smart. I think we can all watch the news, we can read the newspaper, figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, there are those in government that think that we can't figure it out, and that we'll just trust them for some reason. I'm not sure why they think that, because the poll numbers don't bear that out. But so at Sentinel, it's a free activist program. Lori and Phoebe are a part of it here. It's a Sentinel Strategy call every Monday, 4:30 p.m. We call you. It's also on Zoom. The following day, we send out what's called the call notes, going over what we talked about, any action items. So right now, that Title IX rule that I mentioned, if you have not left a comment yet, the comment period is open through September 12th. It is very important we have as many unique comments as possible on that rule.
Can you give us a website?
If you go to heritageaction.com/title, TITLE, and the number 9. heritageaction.com/title9. So that's TITLE and the number 9. Don't spell it out, write the actual number. And we will have talking points, background info. So there will be on that website, when you click to take action, leave a comment, it will give you a pre-formulated comment to leave, but we would encourage you to add your own 2 cents there as well, because when they're going through those comments, once the comment period closes, if it's just all the same comment, they batch that as one and say, oh, that doesn't really count. So we want as many unique comments as possible, because they are required by law to go through each one of them and also respond to them after the comment period is closed.
What was that date?
September 12th. Yes, so it's a 60-day comment period. So heritageaction.com/title9. So that's things that are in our call notes. I'm regional coordinator, so I'm basically your neighbor over in Mansfield, Texas, just south of Fort Worth. I have business cards. If you want to join Sentinel, it's very simple. You just go to heritageaction.com, click join. There's a little bit of like your name, your zip code. The zip code is so I know where you live at, because I don't want to send you information about Eddie Bernice Johnson, the congressman from Dallas, when you're in Lance Gooden's district. But if I don't have your zip code, you're going to get random stuff. So give me your zip code, your phone number for the call, and your email to get those call notes. And last thing I do want to share, because you're my neighbors almost, an hour from here, an hour west, Fort Worth, Texas, November 10th through 12th, we are having our annual Sentinel Summit. It is a fantastic, I can't even hyperbolize this, is that how I pronounce it? I can't over-exaggerate this. It is one of the most fantastic conferences. I know a lot of us being politically active probably go to a lot of different conferences and events. I'm telling you right now, this one, and I'm not saying because I work there, I love Summit because we have fantastic speakers, not just, members of Congress and lawmakers, but we also have Sentinels joining us, talking about what they've been doing in their state, how they've ran for school board and won, or how their school board operates, or how they've recruited election workers. So Summit is November 10th through 12th in Fort Worth. You have to be a Sentinel to go. It's a lot of fun, I promise you. If you become a Sentinel, again, heritageaction.com, click join, and you will hear from me. I promise you. I just want to end with before I go to questions, I really think it was a kind of God moment. So you shared the second half of the serenity prayer, which I love, because it talked about enjoying one moment at a time. Is that it can be so hard. I mean, I've been in politics for over a decade. It's really easy to be jaded. It's really easy to be angry and just want to throw your hands up and say, like it's just done, like I'm done, and I get it. But I love that it says, one moment at a time, one day at a time. That's how activism has to be. Activism is not we just have to win this one and then we're done. Because there's no permanent victories or defeats in this world. It's just permanent battles. Heritage Action is here to stand with you in those battles, provide you the resources you need, the talking points, the fellowship, the connections, to take those steps each and every day. We call y'all Sentinels, our dedicated leaders with relentless optimism. Because we're all here because we believe that America is a great country and can be great again, and that the ship can be righted. So thank you so much. Again, my name is Rebekah Warwick, and I am happy to take any questions you might have. Yes, Lori.
I just quickly want to say that John and I went to the Sentinel Summit in San Antonio a few years back, and it really was very impressive. They really take a lot of good information and good fellowship and get some free stuff too.
Yeah, and it's a jam-packed 2.5 days. We do not let you sleep. Any other questions? Did I just dazzle you all? Oh, okay. Nope.
You're talking about ESG scores, and you're right. It's a financial way for the government to get funding to go to companies that the government doesn't want. But it's even more devious than that, because eventually the ESG scores are going to affect you.
Yes.
Because your house is too big, you've got a bad ESG. Your car uses too much gas. And the net effect is you're going to find you can't borrow money. There's a lot of things you won't be able to do because the government says your ESG scores won't. It's going to affect a lot of people, not just big business.
No, and I mentioned that too, is that, ESG just kind of the first step towards that social credit score. If we allow our financial firms and the government to say, we're going to assign you this score because your company does X, Y, Z, and so because you have this high score, you get access to capital, but you get a low score, and that's really just because of the industry that you're in. You don't get that access. You're right, that eventually comes to us as the individual. We have a big house. We have a big truck.
Did you realize the brokerage houses that control all our pensions, our 401ks, all the investment firms, they use the ESG pressure the boards to sway their ways, so they're affecting all the different boards that control these corporations. No longer are they focused on what's right for the company, what's right for the business. They're pushing this.
No, and if you've noted, I know it was made a comment, I was at an event a few weeks ago, that it was no longer boards focused on the stakeholders, but the shareholders, which is a key difference, because it's not talking about, the people who've actually invested their money with us, but more with those that have that agenda they're trying to push. And so you're right, ESG, very pernicious. I think we've probably caught it in time. There's a lot of states engaging on it already, but there's still more work to be done to protect industries, really just to protect Texas, right? Because if they try to cripple that's like ESG not only goes after the jobs and businesses, that can cripple an economy. And it's really funny, if you've heard of BlackRock, that's kind of the biggest culprit right now.
Yeah, they're big.
So they won't, they're actively going.
They have huge stakeholders in Exxon and oil companies. They're actually pushing green energy inside the oil companies.
Yes. So they are actively trying to shut down oil and gas, fossil fuel here. At the same time, they're investing in coal in China. So again, we all started talking about countering the threat of communist China. Yes, sir.
Did you see where Sri Lanka had a 98 ESG score and the whole country went bankrupt and had to keep the president out?
Yes, I mean, I was at
That's ESG total failure with a 98 score.
No, if y'all have ever met Jason Isaac from Texas Public Policy Foundation, he runs Life Power. They're doing a lot with ESG and energy. He'll joke, but it's kind of serious, that ESG does, it wants us to be a third world country. It wants us all walking everywhere, not having an AC, basically, right? Because here in Texas, we're all using our AC right now.
Yeah, we're not building energy plants.
So, but you're right though, ESG, I mean, it's so crazy because it's not just they say it's about, climate change and saving the environment, but a lot of our industries are great stewards of the environment. This is actually trying to reverse time and say we're not going to use any of this at all, and it's okay that we all, huddle in our tiny houses with no AC. That's best. That's kind of like the vision that is coming through ESG.
That's the Marxist.
It is a Marxist ideology. And that's their goal. Again, you have CRT in schools, ESG in our industries. It's going after the left is going after every single facet of society that they can, trying to weasel their way in, find cracks. And it's up to us to stand in the gap, call it out, try to stop it before it happens, and then if it's coming in, getting our lawmakers to act on it, not just give lip service, but to act on it. So like I said earlier, we should provide encouragement to lawmakers and work with them, but let's never forget that they do work for us. We have to hold them accountable and make sure they know that we are watching and that we are keeping score in a way of what they're doing. If there's any other questions, if not, I'm gonna hang out over here. I'm not leaving, I promise, but thank you so much for having me this evening. I would love you to join Sentinel. So again, heritageaction.com and click join Sentinel and then right on your way. Thank you so much.